Good morning, everybody. This is Bishop E.W. Jackson. I'm coming to you from Midland, Texas. Right now, I'm here doing some business for a great organization that I've learned about recently. I'll get into that at another time. But actually, I hope that you will tune in to the God Learning channel. I'll give you information about the programming I've been doing down here for the last day or so. But look, I wanted to do this because I think it's important to talk to you about what's happening in El Paso, what's happening in Dayton, Ohio. Folks, this is heartbreaking. It really is. It's heartbreaking to see this violence take place, to see our fellow citizens gunned down in cold blood. But, I wanted to say something that I've not heard anybody else saying, and it needs to be said. And it's this. These folks running around trying to blame President Trump for this violence are way, way, way off base. These Democrat presidential candidates, these Democrat politicians that are trying to blame President Trump are way off base. I mean, horribly off base. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. But before I do that, let's go back to something very, very basic. The left has told us we don't want God mentioned. We don't want prayer. They ridicule the idea of thoughts and prayers going out in behalf of victims. We don't want the name of Jesus mentioned, the Prince of Peace. We don't want the 10 commandments posted anywhere on any of our public buildings. And one of those commandments says what? Thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not commit murder. But no. We don't want any of that. That's horrible. That's violation of separation of church and state, and this sort of nonsense. When there was a time when we had a moral compass in our nation, and there was an agreement, a pact, if you will, and we were prepared to condemn people who violated that pact. Now we find excuses for every kind of violence that takes place, except unless that violence is committed by a white person. Now, let me come back to that in a second. Folks, violence comes from the depravity of the human heart. It comes from, in some cases, mental illness. This is not being caused by President Trump, and it is not a problem of white people. It is not a problem of white supremacy. It's not a problem of white privilege. This is a problem of the human heart. And the terrible mistake, the demagoguery that these Democrats, these leftists are going through is to point the finger at President Trump and suggest that somehow he has stoked violence, particularly in the case of El Paso. They don't have an explanation for Ohio because that's an entirely different situation. That young man we don't know what was wrong with him. He killed his own sister. But for the one in El Paso, this is the president's doing because the president has stoked racism against people. Well, here I stand as an American of African descent, as a black American, a citizen of the greatest nation on earth, to say that is a lie. It is a lie. The president has not stoked racism. I've listened to pretty much every word the man has said. And of course, if you hate him and you want to interpret it that way, sure, you can interpret things he said and say, oh yeah, that's racist. But the president is making honest commentary about things that need to be commented on, and nobody wants to hear it. So he talked about Baltimore. Oh, that's racist. Baltimore's a basket case. Is that racist? Or is it just racist because President Trump said it? Elijah Cummings said it. The president mayor said it. A number of others have said it. But suddenly when the president brings it up, it's racist. So let me go to the heart of what I really want to get to here. Because everybody's now, of course, we're going to have gun control. And, look, I don't have any problem with appropriate measures to make sure that people who are mentally ill can't get their hands on weapons. Of course, I'm always concerned that the left will abuse this because we know what their real agenda is. Their real agenda is they want to disarm the American people, period. I mean, who are we kidding? That's what they really want to do. They want to disarm the American people. But okay, fine. I don't want guns in the hands of mentally ill people who are going to go out and do harm to others. I don't think any reasonable American does. The question is, what can we really do about it? And they don't want to hear the fact that Americans always need to be prepared to defend themselves, because even when it takes the police only a couple of minutes to get there, we can see what happens, the violence that can be done against people in a very, very short time. But look, folks, here's what's got to happen, and this is the essence of my message today. The left has got to stop this racial, racist demagoguery, trying to paint the president as a racist, trying to paint anybody who is against illegal immigration as a racist, and trying to suggest all white people are racist. And the problem in our country is the white man. Folks, I don't know that I've heard anything so diabolical, so sick, since I used to hear that the black man was the problem, and that the black man was a violent, racist, irresponsible, murderous person. Now we're hearing that no, it wasn't the black man after all. It's the white man. And folks, both of those are just as evil and wicked as it gets. And let me say this to all you leftists out there, and you make sure that the leftist people you know hear this. You can run around the country talking this garbage about it's the white man and it's white people and it's white supremacy and it's white privilege. And look, normal people are going to look at you like they should, which is you're an idiot. And nobody ought to listen to the junk that is pouring out of your mouth. But the marginal, the people who are mentally already on the margin, the people who are already paranoid, the people who are already on medication, the people who are already dealing with all kinds of mental issues, they hear that. Some of these young white guys hear that and they say, see, they're out to get us. They're out to get us. There's no question about it. They're out to get us. And you get the kind of results that we're getting. Look, I'm not blaming the left. I'm not saying they're responsible. The guy who did it is responsible. But if you want to point the finger at President Trump and say that he's creating this, then you better take a big, long look in the mirror and ask, what is the effect of the constant drumbeat that white people are the problem, white people are the problem, white people are the problem, the white man is the problem, the white man is the problem, the white man is the problem. You remember the stupid remarks made during the Kavanaugh hearings? Well, of course, he's being evaluated by a bunch of old white men. Principle is out the window now. Ideals are out the window. Judeo-Christian values are out the window. Oh, no. It's the white man. The white man is the problem. And you realize that plays right into the heart of every nutcase in this country? Plays right into the heart of every marginal person, every hate-filled person. Most people in this country, no matter what their race, no matter what their background, they're law-abiding, they're trying to do what's right, they're trying to treat everybody right. And we are now trying to turn one particular group of people into the repository of all that is evil, all that is wicked, all that is racist, and we're asking the whole country to buy into that. Let me tell you something. Opposition to illegal immigration is not racist. It is about protecting the sovereignty of our nation. It is about protecting law and order as the rule of our country. That we have laws that must be respected and honored and obeyed. It is about protecting the unique culture that is America. And we protect that in part by controlling how many come into our country, how often we allow the people to come into our country, how many come into our country, so that they can be properly matriculated, they can be properly enculturated into American culture. Now, if you want to call that racist, you're an idiot. That's reasonable and rational and appropriate, and every nation on earth does it. Or at least, if they've got any sense, they should. Lord knows, as the descendant of slaves, I don't look at Hispanic people and think, oh, they're inferior, they're bad, they're wicked, I hate them. I mean, that's idiotic. No, most Americans don't think that way. And by the way, most Americans believe it wouldn't matter if they were Europeans coming across our border illegally. We would still have the same issue because we would still be saying they're not respecting our laws. They're not coming the proper way. And if we continue to allow this to happen, it destroys the rule of law in our country. I mean, I hope we're deporting anybody who overstays their visa, anybody who comes across the border illegally. I hope we're deporting them. And let me add this, folks. I used to think, we're never going to deport 11 million, 20 million, whatever it is. You know what I'm thinking now? Because of the crisis that's now been created, and I see no end to this, I believe we're going to have to get a lot more aggressive, not violent, not abusive, but a lot more aggressive than we've been. And we're going to have to make a commitment to deporting every person who's not here illegally. I mean, I think that's just where we are. If we don't, we're going to be overrun. I really believe that, because this situation, notice, it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. And until we have a no tolerance policy and say, look, if you come here illegally, you're going to go. We're not going to allow you to stay, period. If it takes us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we're going to hunt you down. We're going to kick you out. Now, am I a racist? And by the way, I don't care whether they came from illegally from Eastern Europe or Ireland or China or Africa. Doesn't matter. You can't come to America illegally. But we don't go kill people. Americans aren't interested in killing people because they're here illegally or killing anybody. And the idea that the president is somehow behind this and the president is somehow stoking this is preposterous and evil and wicked. And one thing that we can do, and I'm out of time, but one thing that we could do to help stop some of this violence is to attend to the mental illness that we know is behind all of these mass killings, A, and B, stop giving people a reason to feel that they are under siege by saying that it's the white man, it's the white man, it's the white man, it's the white man, it's the white man. And that coming from a black man. Isn't that ironic? Because here's what I believe. I'm a Christian. I believe there is none righteous, no, not one. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That all human beings are flawed. That all ethnic groups are capable, have people within them that are capable of terrible evil. And and Dr. King said it, man's inhumanity to man. Not white people's inhumanity toward others, but man's inhumanity to man. It's a human problem, not a white problem. And I'm just really disgusted with the level of racial demagoguery coming out of Beto O'Rourke and these presidential candidates and all of these folks trying to make everything in life racial. Final comment. You know where this comes from? It comes from Karl Marx. Because what it is an American leftist style class warfare. They're trying to create perpetual class warfare on the basis of race. So that if you're quote unquote a person of color, then quote unquote the white people are out to get you. And what's the answer? Oh, you've got to vote Democrat. You've got to be in the leftist camp because we're the only ones who care. We're the only ones who are going to protect you from those horrible racists. Folks, this is racial demagoguery at its worst. And the Democrat Party has practiced it to the point where it is their cause celeb. And the rest of us ought to just say, you know what, enough. You know, it is my prayer that this so-called racist, Donald J. Trump, who's president of the United States, who is not a racist, but it is my prayer that he will win in 2020 with such an overwhelming victory, and that he will so shame these leftists for their demagoguery and their division and their racial balkanization of this country, that vast numbers of Democrats, black Democrats, white Democrats, Hispanic Democrats would say, you know what? This president is trying to serve our country. He loves our country. He loves all of our people. He's trying to do what's best for all of us. And these bunch of Democrats are running around doing nothing but engaging in racial demagoguery to try to get power and stay in power. And when they get it in power, which they have in most of the cities across our country, what do they do with it? They keep people locked in captivity, in enclaves of poverty and violence and drug addiction and gang warfare. And they keep them there so they can use them every election day as their pawns. They're the racists who are always pointing the finger at white people. And most of the people saying that, by the way, happen to be white. But don't pay any attention to that, because after all, they are the final repositories of what is racially and morally right. Enough. Let's deal with the problems of mental illness, and let's come back to the 10 Commandments. Let's come back to faith in God. Let's come back to love for one another instead of turning people into objects of hatred like they've done to the president. And let's honor the great legacy that our founding fathers bequeathed us. I'm going to continue to fight for the vision of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, because without God, there's not going to be any liberty and there's not going to be any justice for all. So you leftists, just deal with it. Go hide in a hole somewhere, while those of us who love each other and love this country try to make this country everything the founding fathers once envisioned it could be. And it still can be. And I don't mind saying it, folks. It is not my particular inspiration, but I don't mind appropriating it. We're going to make America great again. And we're going to keep America great until Jesus comes. God bless you all. I got to go.